The ocean is rising, and this affects people everywhere. Many years ago, scientists began noticing how the Earth's climate was changing. This change mainly comes from air pollution created by factories, cars, and other human activities. As the air warms, it causes ice in places like Antarctica and Greenland to melt. This melting ice adds more water to the ocean, causing it to rise. In cities like Miami, Florida, and New Orleans, Louisiana, people see more water creeping into their neighborhoods. Streets can flood even when it does not rain. The struggles caused by rising seas are real for many families. For example, Mary and her kids, who live in a coastal town, often worry about big storms and flooding. Some schools close because it is not safe for students to travel. Mary wishes her children could play at the beach without fear. Many communities work hard to find new ways to stop the ocean from taking their homes. They build walls and raise streets, but these solutions are costly and not always effective. People like Mary show how important it is to talk about climate change. The more we understand this problem, the more we can help each other. Together, we can push for changes in local governments or start community programs to keep our coasts safer. Every action matters, and every voice can make a difference. We can work together to protect our homes and enjoy the beauty of the ocean. As the days passed, Mary felt the weight of worry in her heart. Her coastal town was known for its beautiful beaches, but now it was struggling. One night, after a particularly loud storm, she woke up to the sounds of rushing water. The heavy rain had caused flooding in her neighborhood, making her feel panicked. Mary couldn't shake the feeling that the ocean was getting closer every year. It made her question everything about her home and her family's future. Many people in Mary's town experienced similar fears. The farmers who lived nearby faced challenges too. Their fields were flooded, and they couldn't grow their crops. Prices for food began to rise, and families worried they could not afford to eat as well as before. Meanwhile, big companies continued to pollute the air and water. These companies often made a lot of money, but the local workers suffered. It didn't seem fair. In another part of the city, Maya and her family lived in an apartment near the shore. One afternoon, as they watched the waves crash against the rocks, Maya shared her fears with her brother. "What if our home isn't safe anymore?" she said softly. They talked about moving to higher ground, but they didn't have enough money. Many families like theirs could not afford to leave. The rising ocean was like a hungry monster ready to take their dream homes away. Local governments in their town knew about the rising tides, but were slow to respond. Politicians often focused on other issues, leaving the problems in neighborhoods unaddressed. This created anger and doubt in many residents. Mary felt frustrated. "Why isn't anyone helping us?" she thought. She wanted to do something, but she didn't know where to start. Compounding these issues were policies that often seemed outdated. Laws made by leaders long ago did not keep up with the troubles of today. For instance, in some places, the rules allowed builders to construct homes close to the beach despite the rising waters. This construction served only the few who profited from the land, while families faced increasing risks. Mary and her friends often held small meetings to discuss solutions, but realized that many voices weren't heard in city halls. With growing frustration, Mary sought stories from others. She met Jose, a fisherman who had spent his life on the water. Jose told her how he'd lost his fishing spots because they were underwater. "The ocean has changed, but we are still here," he said. His words echoed in Mary's mind, reminding her that they wouldn't give up easily. People started to come together for action. In cafes and community centers, Mary joined groups of neighbors debating how to reach out to their government. They made posters and walked around town, sharing what was happening. These efforts brought some attention, but the problem was larger than they had imagined. Some days, the struggles felt heavy. Mary faced moments of doubt, wondering if they could really fight against such a powerful, rising ocean. Yet, in each gathering with her friends, they found hope and new strength. The spirit of their community helped voice their fears and fight against the challenges, uniting them in purpose and determination. They knew that together they could be stronger in the face of uncertainty ahead. Mary and her friends felt excited when they started to see small changes in their town. After they gathered in the community center and shared their worries, local officials finally listened. They agreed to hold a meeting where everyone could discuss how to tackle the problems caused by rising sea levels. It was a small win, but it gave them the push they needed to keep going, filling Mary with growing confidence. However, not everything was easy. As they organized to push for change, obstacles appeared. Some powerful builders in the town wanted to keep developing beautiful homes along the coast. They cared more about making profits than protecting families. During discussions, a builder named Mr. Collins often spoke against the plans Mary hoped for. "We need to grow our economy, and new homes are a path to do that," he said. His strong words created doubt among some community members, but Mary held on to her newfound confidence. She discovered that real change was possible. She met with Dr. Emily Carter, an environmental expert who had spent years studying the effects of climate change. Dr. Carter emphasized the importance of building seawalls and restoring natural areas like wetlands. "Wetlands can absorb floodwaters and provide habitats for wildlife," she explained. Her knowledge offered hope. Rather than just protecting the coast, a healthy environment could also benefit families like Mary's. At the meeting, many people listened closely to Dr. Carter. Her ideas were met with excitement, especially when she talked about new technologies that could save money for families while ensuring safety. Mary thought about her friend Jose and the fishermen struggling by the shore. Making changes like planting native grasses along the coast could not only help keep the ocean at bay, but could also create jobs as they cared for their habitats. But not everyone was supportive. Some community members felt skeptical. They feared that if too many changes happened, they might lose their homes. They worried that lengthy discussions and plans would take too long, and the ocean could rise even higher in the meantime. Dr. Carter understood their concerns, but encouraged the group to stay united. "Every step counts," she assured them. "Even small changes make a difference." Mary decided they needed to act fast, building momentum and showing how important it was to continue gaining support. Inspired by Dr. Carter, they began organizing beach cleanups and neighborhood workshops. At these events, they encouraged individuals to learn more about climate change, equipping them with the tools to speak up. The gatherings brought people from different backgrounds together, and conversations began flowing more openly. The community started to feel like part of a larger family, united toward a common goal. Sensing this spirit of collaboration, more residents began to champion change. Even some of Mr. Collins' construction workers wanted to help save their beaches. They joined beach cleanups and talked with Mary's group. More or less, the domino effect started to take shape, gradually creating an environment where many voices came together as one. Change, though still met with some resistance, was beginning to take root. Each effort filled Mary with hope, reminding her that if they rallied behind knowledgeable leaders, staying committed to the cause, they could create a safer future and protect their beloved town. As Mary and her friends continued to work hard for change, something unexpected happened that put their efforts to the test. One morning, news spread rapidly in their small town. A massive storm was heading their way. Weather reports warned of dangerous rain and high tides, leaving everyone on edge. As the storm approached, the community felt a mix of fear and urgency. People rushed to prepare, gathering supplies and boarding up windows. When the storm hit, the winds howled and the rain poured down. Families gathered together, listening to friends and neighbors share their fears. Mary could hardly breathe. She spent a sleepless night worrying about whether the ocean would spill into their homes. As the heavy rain fell, She remembered the meetings they had held in the community center, discussing solutions and collaborating with experts. Now, all of those ideas seemed more important than ever. After the storm passed, Mary stepped outside with her heart pounding. What she saw took her breath away. The streets were flooded, and many homes now stood knee-deep in water. Where there once had been beaches, waves crashed against the sidewalks. On her walk, Mary met her friend Maya, who was also surveying the damage. "This can't be happening," Maya breathed as she looked at her apartment, now surrounded by water. The reality of the storm had shaken everyone's spirits, pulling them back into doubt. With news of the disaster spreading, local news stations reported repeatedly on the storm's impact. Images of flooded neighborhoods and people's struggles flashed across TV screens. Suddenly, the public was awake to the severity of the situation. Climate change was not just a distant issue. With millions watching, families took to social media to share their heartbreaking stories. Hashtags like #SaveOurCoast began trending, and people from all over the country joined in. This alarming reality amplified voices demanding change. Inside the town hall, meetings about disaster recovery hastened. People called for immediate actions against climate-related risks, hoping to catch the attention of leaders higher up in the government. Mary felt a renewed sense of purpose and urgency. "Maybe this shocking event can make a difference," she thought, hopeful that they could leverage this disaster to create real momentum for change. However, not everyone thought so. Mr. Collins took to the public stage, suggesting repairing the damage and conducting business as usual. "We must rebuild what we lost and keep the economy strong," he stated as reporters filled the room. His words stirred heated debates within the community. Some residents agreed with him, worried that too much change would cost jobs and lessen property values. The town's newspaper ran articles both for and against him, showcasing the divide and confusion gripping the community. Yet, as the storm stories flooded social media and captured the media's eye, many began to unite under the pressing need for proactive solutions. The small victories Mary had collected, like the cleanups and neighborhood workshops, turned into resounding calls for action. Community members arranged a public rally to demand changes that could help prevent such disasters in the future. Mary rallied the neighbors, and together they worked tirelessly to organize the event. They wanted the public to see the ocean's reality and how it affected everyone. The day of the rally brought together a large crowd, with signs and powerful voices calling for change. Mary stood on stage, heart racing, feeling her confidence surge. She had transformed from a worried neighbor to a courageous fighter for her community. As she spoke, she felt the collective energy support her. The moment resonated deeply, cementing the urgency they had needed. Their brave actions had drawn attention beyond their small town, revealing the larger fight against climate challenges. Now, Mary knew they were taking a stand, and this was not just the beginning. This was a turning point in their fierce journey together. As the crowd grew, excitement and tension filled the air at the rally. People waved signs with messages like, "Protect our homes," and "Keep the ocean at bay." Mary felt proud that so many cared about their community. The event was not just a gathering, it became a powerful movement. With the storm fresh in everyone's minds, she sensed that this was a defining moment in their fight against rising sea levels. Mary stepped to the front, the weight of the moment palpable. She looked out at her friends, family, and neighbors. "We need real change," she called, her voice ringing with passion. Many raised their hands in agreement, cheering like a battle cry. Suddenly, she spotted Mr. Collins standing off to the side, arms crossed, watching with a frown. Her heart raced as she knew he held great power in their town. As she spoke about the importance of new laws to protect the coast, she felt a wave of energy from the crowd. "We must tell our leaders that we won't wait any longer," she urged them. In the heat of the moment, she remembered Dr. Carter's suggestions about restoring wetlands and building strong seawalls. Let's ask for real investments in solutions that can prevent flooding and make our homes better." The crowd erupted in applause, urging each other to chant together. However, just as things began to take shape, a storm of tension broke out around them. Mr. Collins stepped onto the stage with a firm expression. "Ladies and gentlemen," he began, his voice booming in the eager crowd, "we should not let fear guide our decisions. Rebuilding is necessary for our homes, our jobs." His words hung in the air, cutting through the excitement with heavy doubt. Many in the crowd looked confused, swayed by his authority and the promise of swift recovery. But Mary didn't let his words shake her. This was their moment to stand together. Instead, she called on her community to reject the idea of quick fixes that ignore the deeper problems. "If we rebuild the way he wants, we risk our homes again. We need real solutions that protect us from this happening repeatedly." Her determination shone through, and it ignited the crowd's spirit. Voices began to rise around her, demanding change. In that heated moment, emotions ran high and the atmosphere shifted. Some supporters were angered by Mr. Collins' dismissive comments and rallied to Mary's side, while others remained uncertain. It was clear the community stood divided. Tensions escalated as supporters clashed with those who feared the disruption of their routines and jobs. People shouted back and forth, fueling the confusion. But in the chaos, something transformed. A young girl, holding a poster in her small hands, took a step toward the stage. "We want to live, too," she cried, her voice trembling with emotion. Her honesty cut through every argument. Everyone turned to her, realizing they were all in the same struggle. The reminder struck a chord deep within the crowd, and slowly silence fell. When Mary looked out again, she didn't just see friends or neighbors. She saw a united front, everyone literally next to each other, determined to fight for their community's future. This moment became a rallying point, lending a renewed sense of purpose as Mary grasped how much strength their collective voice already held. As leaders around them shifted sides, moving to support the community's urgent calls for stronger protections, the tide began to change. News stations captured the emotional scene, broadcasting their struggle to a larger audience. The balance of power had turned, and people started to view them not just as neighbors, but as a united community willing to brave the difficulties ahead. From that day on, hope surged through their hearts. While challenges remained, the fight had become a matter of collective strength and community unity. Mary felt a profound insight deep in her heart. This moment marked not just a call to act against rising waters, but a bond that couldn't be broken in their shared journey for a better, safer future. After the rally, the energy across the town was electric. People remained talking in small groups, still buzzing with excitement after that historic show of unity. Together, they had made their voices heard in a way that few had imagined possible. Mary felt both proud and humbled. She had never seen such an outpouring of community spirit, and it filled her with hope. But as the weeks passed, the struggle to turn that energy into action became their next great challenge. In the days that followed, local leaders began to reconsider their positions. Then one evening, news spread that there would be a town hall meeting to discuss new policies aimed at climate resilience. This meeting wasn't just any town hall. It would focus on actually taking steps to protect their community from future storms. Mary couldn't believe the progress they were making. The momentum built up during the rally felt powerful, and she hoped it would lead to real change. As Mary prepared for the meeting, she talked with her friends about the lessons they had learned so far. "We learned that our voices matter," she said with determination. "When we all come together, we can influence the decisions that affect us." They all nodded in agreement. They knew that this was about more than just protecting their homes. It was about standing up for future generations, for the children who still played on the beach and watched waves roll in. During the town hall meeting, the atmosphere buzzed with anticipation. Leaders from various departments presented their ideas for solutions. They spoke about building stronger seawalls and restoring wetlands, echoing Dr. Carter's suggestions. The community members listened closely, ready to voice their own ideas and concerns. However, struggles remained. Some people held on to doubts, still weighing the economic implications and costs involved. What if it costs more jobs than it saves? Someone asked, echoing sentiments from before. Mary stood up to address those concerns. If we don't protect our homes, she said, it won't matter how many jobs we have. Rising waters will leave us all with nothing. Her words connected deeply. She saw people nodding, sensing the truth in her statement. The moment reminded everyone why they were there, together fighting for their beloved town. Her initiative to step in encouraged others, who worried, to also express their feelings. The meeting concluded with a longer list of projects for the town to consider, provoking discussions among community members about how to fund these efforts. They proposed new tax initiatives and raised the importance of reaching out for grant funding to secure necessary money for climate protection. Slowly, Mary recognized that conversations had begun to shift. People seemed more open to new solutions that didn't just prioritize quick fixes. As time passed, the vibrant energy from the rally transformed into actionable plans. The town began reaching out to local organizations and even state leaders for support. New partnerships formed, bringing technical expertise and resources to help with the rebuilding process. The entire issue gained renewed interest, with local media highlighting the community's struggle and transformative journey. However, challenges persisted amid progress. As the layers of bureaucracy started becoming clear, it became evident that delays might halt vital projects. Moreover, tensions remained high, with some neighbors worried about the cost and the commitment required for new plans. Even through these difficulties, the bond within the community grew stronger. They cherished the lessons they had learned about unity, courage, and determination. At that critical moment, amidst growing frustrations and hopes, Mary realized they had ignited a movement that could extend beyond their town. The ripple effects from their efforts had sparked awareness in neighboring communities, spreading the conversation about climate change and resilience, influencing others to take action too. Mary knew they had turned a corner, yet this turning point was only the beginning. Their fight would continue, but they now stood stronger together, prepared to face whatever challenges lay ahead. The road might be long, but they were ready for the journey, fueled by the lessons learned and the bond they had created in their shared fight for the future. As weeks passed after the big rally, the effects of their collective actions began to ripple through the community. Local leaders gathered teams to brainstorm how best to implement the plans they had discussed. For many, this time was a confusing mix of excitement about change and concern about what lay ahead. People adjusted to the aftermath in different ways, and Mary observed how it shaped the dynamics of their town. The first sign of change was the formation of new committees, bringing together citizens, officials, and environmental experts. Mary felt a surge of hope as she watched her neighbors engage in discussions, sharing ideas about how to keep their coastlines safe. The town hired more workers to help with analysis. People came together daily at community centers, poring over plans for restoring wetlands and building seawalls. Mary joined the conversations and was excited to see her community becoming proactive. Their passion was contagious, igniting a sense of responsibility for their shared future. However, while many people offered insights and goodwill, others found it difficult to navigate the shifts. Some older residents worried about the costs of new repairs. "Will my taxes go up to pay for this?" one elderly man asked during a meeting. Others echoed his fears, recalling times when they had to make hard choices due to rising expenses. Their worries reflected a pressing question: how could they balance necessary improvements against the costs of living in a small town? Meanwhile, business owners faced their challenges too. As the town planned for big changes, many felt uncertain about how rebuilding areas next to the coast might impact their livelihoods. Sal's Diner, a cherished local spot, faced concerns with roof leaks, and he worried about steady income during the renovations. Although he supported the ideas for improvements, the uncertainty weighed heavily on him. "How long will this take? What if business drops?" he voiced to Mary, anxiety evident in his voice. In contrast, many of the young people in the town saw it differently. They believed rebuilding offered them a unique opportunity. They organized events to raise funds, showing everyone that they could champion the change they desired. Local schools, led by enthusiastic teachers, began incorporating climate education into their lessons. Children learned about protecting the environment, harboring teamwork, and hope for a better future. The youth realized they had the power to influence tomorrow, paving the way for lasting change. As conversations turned more productive, the stories poured in from other neighboring towns facing similar struggles with their coasts. The media showcased these stories, sparking a movement that reached beyond their own community. More towns looked to Mary's town as an example, hoping to learn how they managed to rally together. As public interest grew, Mary's hometown increasingly became a model for how communities could unite against climate challenges. With their efforts highlighted in the news, local leaders began reaching out for external funding, applying for state and federal grants to help support improvements. Each successful application brought a sense of triumph that the community had not experienced in years. However, as the plans began to take on shape, the day-to-day realities mixed excitement and fatigue. Everyone knew that changes didn't come easy. Through it all, Mary found herself deeply reflecting on the changes unfolding around her. She recalled her fears in the beginning and how uncertain everything seemed. Now, she saw her neighbors taking an active role in shaping their future and embracing the hard work ahead. Together, they faced the obstacles, anxieties, and hopes. Each gathering reminded her that they were not just fighting against the tide, but courageously standing up for their right to live safely by the coast. Mary learned about her responsibility to champion not only her community, but also the many other towns grappling with similar challenges. Although the road ahead was unclear, she felt more than ever that they were building a strong foundation for a safer tomorrow. She took comfort in knowing they had transformed fear into action, as they navigated through wonderfully mixed emotions: grit, fear, hope, and resilience, allowing each experience to help them grow individually and as a community. As time moved on, the changes in Mary's community began to shape both their everyday lives and the broader society. The efforts to address the rising ocean and climate challenges left profound impacts on how people thought about their environment and future. Neighbors who once only worried about the next storm now engaged in lively discussions about future sustainability. Town meetings turned into collaborative spaces where everyone contributed ideas, and the sense of community became stronger than ever. Families began to adapt their homes, using eco-friendly materials when renovating and incorporating features that could handle heavy rain. Houses raised slightly on stilts were a common sight, showcasing a collective commitment to safety. Even Mary's own family decided to invest in rain barrels, harvesting water instead of relying solely on city supplies. People were more conscious of their choices and sought to minimize their environmental impact. Those changes inspired deeper conversations around their children's responsibilities toward the planet, marking a generational shift that pushed for action. However, this journey toward a sustainable community was not without ongoing debates. Some residents argued about prioritizing improvements. While some believed in building seawalls, others felt restoration of natural spaces like wetlands should come first. "We need to protect our coastline, but we also need to create homes for wildlife," one person stated during a town meeting. Such discussions sparked passion, but also led to disagreements that sometimes divided those who used to stand shoulder to shoulder. Moreover, as new policies emerged and funds were allocated for coastal improvements, residents started to realize that financial decisions carried their own weight. They recognized that the proposed funding might lead to increased taxes, raising tension between those willing to invest in long-term safety and those afraid of economic strain. Conversations became heated as people debated how much they were willing to sacrifice for the greater good, echoing the fears that originally divided them. The youth, however, continued to shine a bright light on the potential for change. Groups of students organized their own community projects, planting trees throughout the town and cleaning up local parks and beaches. Their efforts inspired adults to join in, bridging the gap and rekindling excitement for community service. Mary saw hopeful lights in their eyes, reminding her of the bond they had created during the early days of battling the rising tides. She often found herself sharing insights at schools about how every small action could create a significant impact on the future. Yet, with their minds focused on sea level rise, new issues began to surface. Some residents expressed concerns about how business developments along the coast could affect nearby ecosystems and increase resilience. We can't simply close our eyes to growth. We need to ensure businesses respect our environment too, one business owner insisted. This called for a deeper commitment to sustainable practices, pushing the community to forge business alliances that supported ecological sensitivity. Adjustments were also necessary in long-held beliefs and habits. The townsfolk who once thought of the ocean merely as a beautiful view began recognizing it as a powerful force needing protection. They adopted new ways of thinking about water management and conservation, learning to see their coast not only as a place for fun, but also as a place demanding careful stewardship. Slowly, discussions shifted toward how everyone could contribute to long-lasting solutions, not just thinking of themselves, but considering the future of their neighbors, children, and even wildlife. As challenges continued, Mary understood that the journey would not be easy, yet the lessons learned transformed perspectives. The commitment to act paved the way for a more thoughtful and engaged community. Individuals and families learned to adjust not just in response to an immediate crisis, but even more to nurture a healthy environment for the future. Each small step left behind a tangible footprint of change, with everyone playing a part in nurturing a respect for both each other and the world around them. She felt empowered by these ongoing efforts as they made room for additional voices in the conversation, learning that together they could cultivate resilience while continuing to address the pressing challenges ahead. As months turned into years since the rally, Mary began to appreciate how much their community had grown and changed. Ongoing improvements emerged as they rebuilt coastlines and incorporated nature into their planning. Wetlands returned, restoring crucial habitats and providing natural protection against flooding. The sight of birds nesting in the newly formed marshes made all the hard work feel worthwhile. She could see the benefits radiating out to not only her neighbors, but the entire ecosystem. Each day brought new signs of hope as they witnessed nature reclaiming spaces that once faced the threat of being lost. The town also fostered partnerships with businesses willing to implement sustainable practices. Local shops and restaurants began prioritizing eco-friendly goods and reducing their waste, transforming what once felt like a daunting task into a community norm. The shift encouraged everyone to think about the simplicity of their daily choices. They realized that small actions, like using reusable bags or reducing single-use plastic, bundled together to create a significant impact. Mary often took to her newfound role as a community advocate, sharing her encouraging experiences with neighborhoods outside her own. She traveled to nearby towns, sharing the lessons learned in their fight against climate challenges, further igniting collective action. Through these connections, she understood the power of community and growth. Other towns adapted the ideas she and her peers implemented, fostering their unique initiatives to combat rising sea levels, creating an almost ripple effect across the region. Significantly, the town's experience influenced local policies too. It became crucial to introduce comprehensive planning that considered not only economic development, but environmental preservation. Government officials began consulting residents more frequently about constructing future developments. They acknowledged that they needed collaboration to keep businesses thriving while protecting their coastal land. The voice of Mary's community became essential in shifts toward legislation that recognized sustainability as a central thread in their economic fabric. The power to push for change rested among individuals. Mary recognized how influential it was for every person to stay engaged in their communities. People started talking to their representatives, advocating for laws supporting renewable energy and safeguarding coastal areas. School children, empowered by their lessons, raised awareness in creative ways. They hosted art shows to depict their visions of a protected environment, garnering the community's support and expressing vital insights into what they valued. The uplifting atmosphere allowed more compassionate discussions on climate-related policies. People began to unite around the idea that protecting the environment wasn't a debate but a responsibility. It dawned on them that their well-being depended on maintaining a delicate balance between nature and human needs. Through transparency and collaboration, they were not just pursuing solutions, they were changing their mindset about community and sustainability. Yet, amid the unquestionable progress, Mary remained aware of the challenges still ahead. The climate crisis continued to swell globally and affected communities far beyond her town. Recognizing their shared struggles established vital connections with those drastically impacted by rising tides. The experience solidified the understanding that while their community had taken great strides, they needed to remain engaged with wider initiatives for climate action. Growth, resilience, and the ability to adapt emerged as core values within Mary and her neighbors. The haunting image of the flood was still palpable, but it transformed into a badge of honor showing how they overcame adversity together. United in purpose, they were unwaveringly committed to safeguarding their coastal haven not just for themselves, but for generations to come. With every challenge faced, every lesson learned, they found more reasons to remain optimistic and invested in achieving a brighter future. This commitment breathed life into the relationships that continued to flourish, creating strong roots for lasting change within their society, a legacy anchored in the belief that every voice mattered in building resilience against any number of future storms.